Hey, welcome in everybody. I'm Kelly. We are really pleased to have you here. Who's heard of Fivetran? Couple? All right, cool. So we're going to talk about building your data legacy. We're not going to focus solely on Fivetran. We're going to talk about building your data legacy, some of the innovations that are going on in data replication. So was anybody at Ali's keynote today? Did you hear it? Okay. If you heard Ali's keynote, you're going to hear a lot of the same themes. What did Ali talk about? He talked about data fragmentation. We're going to talk about data silos, breaking those down. 3 key challenges. We're going to talk about security and privacy. We're going to talk about that from a hybrid deployment model standpoint. And then, of course, I'm going to talk about Gen AI like Ali did as well. So those key themes, you're going to continue to hear repeated. And I think that they're key themes that you're going to hear across the data community in general. So again, I'm Kelly Kohlleffel with Fivetran. I lead the team responsible for partner sales engineering. So what do these guys do? So we're working with our great partners like Databricks. We also work with consulting partners, try to put together innovative solutions that you can take advantage of as customers. How does Fivetran work better with Databricks? What can we do together to fulfill these end-to-end solutions? I'm curious, first time at Data and AI Summit, anybody come out here when it was called Spark Summit? Okay, I did actually. I don't even think it was in Moscone at the time. I am just amazed at the growth in this community. This is incredible. Tremendous amounts of change. I've got a young son who's a data engineer. And I tell him in this industry, it doesn't matter how old you are, how long you've been doing this, you always need to be learning something new. And I like that this community, we're all kind of learning from each other. Kind of keeps me fresh in this data space. So Gartner, we're going to be talking about building a data legacy, some of the challenges. Gartner last year came out and said that by 2027, more than 70% of enterprises will be using cloud data platforms. Now, they also said that last year only 15%. Probably, if you surveyed this room and the conference in general, we're way over 15%. Like everybody I've talked to in the Fivetran booth, everybody's using Databricks. Sometimes it's Databricks +++, right? So when you think about Fivetran and what we're going to talk about today, you think about enterprises needing not only capabilities in the cloud, but on-prem. You also you heard the keynote, you heard Ali talk a little bit about on-prem. One of the things Databricks did, right? Open source UC, open source Unity catalog. Anybody can use that today. You don't even have to be Databricks customer, right? Very, very cool. On-prem in the cloud, that's one of the themes. But there's some challenges facing whether you're a data team, whether you're a business team. And I go back, does anybody go back to Hadoop land? I was at Hortonworks for 3.5 years, call it lovingly Hadoop land. It was a tough time. It was a very difficult time. And Fivetran and Databricks and the data community today, I think anything's very easy, but there's still challenges, right? That maybe even 10 years ago, we didn't have to deal with. You look at remote work. I've got a son who's never had to commute a day in his life. He's been 100% remote, right? We're a lot of global companies. We rely on the capabilities that our data platforms give us so that we can work remote and we can be very effective with it as well. We're also seeing, I think in every organization, hey, do more with less, tighten it down. And that's going to be a recurring theme. If you work for an organization that's not tightening down, let me know. That would be interesting. I think that, budgets shift around. There may be more moving here, moving there, but in general, things are tightening down. And with that, like the data backlog is not stopping. You're getting another data product, another data service that we're required to crank out and get done, right? So budgets are shrinking. Data product is not. And to stay relevant as data teams, as practitioners, as data leaders in in our organizations, we've got to be able to move quickly. We don't want that backlog to get too much. So I'm interested. How many people have tested out? You probably all have your existing data stack. How many people this year, what are we in, 6 months, who's tested out at least one new tool? One new data tool, okay. Who's tested out, say, 3 to 5 new data tools in the last 6 months? Okay, I was thinking, a couple people, okay. Because you could almost say, hey, if you tested out, I don't know, Llama, Gemma, and Mistral LLMs, maybe the DBRX, DBRX to get that right? The Databricks LLM, you've tested a few things out, right? I mean, there's a lot out there. Depends on how you define new tools and technologies, I guess. So we got these challenges and we got these changes. And so from a challenge standpoint, again, you heard Ali talk about these: security, privacy, governance. I want to make sure, especially when we're talking Gen AI, that when these models are operating on my data, that's all they're operating on. It's not going out into the LLM ecosphere, right? Second, you've got a big challenge with the cost of migration. You saw the Gartner report, 15% in the cloud today. That feels low to me, but Gartner's a lot smarter than I am. There's still a lot to do, and a lot of times cost is what holds us back. I think about, the technology. We know the technology's there. You think about the people. We've all got really great people at our organizations. You got process and approach. All these have to work together, and the cost factor has to play into it. So I need ways to automate this. And we did a study recently that talked about, I didn't know everything was coming up on the screen. We talked about how much data engineering costs if you're building things on your own, right? Like, things are not automated, and it's pretty substantial. Security and compliance, almost $4.5 million. Data reliability and accessibility. Has anybody been in, I call it baling wire, duct tape, and Gorilla Glue mode? Like, you build something out in your data platform and you kind of keep your fingers crossed, you've taped it up really good, and oh, please don't break. I can remember during my Hadoop days, barely making it out to my car before everything came unraveled, get the call. So I don't want to do that. I want data reliability. I want accessibility. I want trust in my data. High quality, trusted, usable data that I can operate any Databricks workload on. And then you talk about the complexity of some of these pipelines. Prior to Fivetran, 6 years consulting, I'd say when we got asked to build a custom pipeline, generally it was somewhere in the, say, 4 to 6 sprint range. You go, Kelly, that takes an awful long time to build. It's not just building, right? I've got to design it. I've got to build it. I've got to test it. I've got to deploy it. I've got to automate it. I've got to document it if I'm doing it right. I've got to then refactor for any edge cases that may come up. I mean, there's a lot to it. So when somebody says, hey, we'll crank out a pipeline in a sprint or two, okay, like, send me those people if they're able to do that in 2 to 4 weeks. That's great. The problem with DIY pipelines is, no matter how well you build them, no matter how many sprints you spend on them, they are going to break. And a high percentage of companies experience this. And I don't know that we'll ever get away completely from DIY pipelines. I think it's always going to be in the tool bag. You'll have 1 or 2, but we're hopefully going to talk to you about some ways today to automate the vast majority of your data flows. So when you think about modernization, there's a lot of new ways to do this today. You need to think about a platform. Databricks, I've got all these workloads, and it's not just about moving a few sources into Databricks. It's how can I facilitate all these Databricks workloads? Databricks started out heavy in the AI/ML space. You saw the growth if you were at the keynote in data warehousing. It's crazy. It's literally straight up hockey stick on Databricks, SQL data warehousing. Cloud migrations are not going to happen overnight for you, right? I mean, it takes some time. I've worked with a number of clients that I can remember one where they said, hey, we're going to move this Netezza data warehouse. Let's move this thing to Databricks. Let's go. That's what they hired us for as a consulting company. And it was about 2 years before we ever got around to that project because there were so many other things to do. And I think when you start talking about on-prem to the cloud, there can be a lot of priorities. It takes some time, right? And then you got the topic that's really at everyone's top of mind right now is Gen AI. And you've got a lot of opportunity here. There's a lot of things to consider. It's very new. Has anybody built a production level Gen AI app right now that's operating off of one of the either open source or proprietary LLMs? Okay, we've got one. I have not built a production Gen AI app. I built a lab Gen AI app. It's a lot of fun. Learned a lot. Share that if you're interested. Share that after the talk. My biggest thing is, don't try to make an LLM into a relational database. I tried to do that for a while. It's not good. They're very creative things. They want to tell you something that will be interesting to you, but it's not a relational database answer. Make them do something creative. All right. So we're going to dig into each one of these. You need a platform that can move all of your data and handle all of your data workloads. When you think about the Databricks Data Intelligence Platform, it's about multiple workloads. I've got sources on the left, databases, I've got applications, I've got file systems, I've got event systems. To me, this is the biggest challenge today. We've talked about volume so much, and that's always a challenge. But it's this disparate data sources that constantly come after me, that somebody goes, hey, Kelly, we need yet another pipeline to this, from this data source to Databricks, and so on and so on and so on. My backlog starts building up because I'm trying to get over here to these outputs. I've got Databricks in the center. How do I put something in place like Fivetran that gives me automation, reliability, scalability, and security, and does that time after time, faithfully moving data from whatever source it is to Databricks? When I was in consulting, there were 7 things that clients would ask me for over and over and over. Kelly, make this simple. I'm done with architectural complexity. I'm tired of having to, put everything together, make it simple. I don't care if it's complex on the backside, but I don't want to have to deal with it. Give me speed to impact, speed to business value, right? We talk about performance speed, but speed business value. Give me self-service. Always kind of shrunk back on the self-service, like that's really tough. I think we're getting there today. You look at what Fivetran and Databricks are doing. Self-service is getting there. You heard Ali talk about democratizing data, democratizing AI. It's not just data engineers, ML engineers, data scientists anymore. Like, it's really becoming something that everybody can embrace. Security, speed, operational sustainability, those kind of things. Those were the top 6 or 7 that I got asked for a lot. And that's really, when you look at Databricks and Fivetran together, in that sort of security umbrella that you have around Databricks and Fivetran, when I add my data, my contextual data, into better informing an LLM, I want it to stay within the Databricks environment, and that's what you get. I like that. I like that. So, what sets Fivetran apart, as I said, is our ability to deliver data reliably and at scale into the Databricks Data Intelligence Platform. I've had a lot of folks coming up. I've been in our booth is just catty corner over here. A lot of folks come up and say, help me with SAP, help me with Oracle, SQL Server, Salesforce, Workday. We have all of those. We are going to really partner with you on just about any data source. We've been doing live demos, 581 data sources now, across almost anything you can imagine. And when you look at a couple of people said, hey, how does Fivetran stand out? I like the fact that we're no code, end-to-end automation. And that includes not only that initial sync of data, whatever that historical data set is that I said, this is what I want, but every time Fivetran goes knocking back on the door of that source, Salesforce, Workday, Oracle, SQL Server, SAP, and says, what changed? We automatically provide all those changes as well, and you do not have to code that up. You do not have to code that up. 580 of those pre-built, real-time data movement, high volume, low impact to your source, high volume, low impact to your source. Everything is secure. We encrypt end-to-end, data at rest, any data in motion, all encrypted and secure. We also have, if you have PII requirements on those, some of those source columns, you can hash at the column level as well. before you move data over to Databricks to give you that extra layer of security around any PII columns that you have. So as I said here, there's kind of a central theme over and over. Say, hey, Kelly, I got these challenging data sources, and you might guess one of the most challenging is SAP. My first SAP experience was quite a few years ago. I was all proud of myself. I was working for Oracle at the time, and I got badged up at a big services company. You know, you get badged up as a technology. I'm walking, oh yeah, I'm one of you, right? And they take me up the escalator and they say, hey, let me introduce you to the SAP team. And I'm thinking, okay, we'll go in a room and meet 4, 5, 6 people. The entire floor was basis and ABAP people. And application DBAs and operational DBAs said, this is the SAP world. It's complex. It takes a lot of people. We make SAP very, very simple. So when you think about data being locked behind maybe 100,000 tables or an SAP NetWeaver application layer or a proprietary database, again, give us a call. We can help with that. We have SAP solutions from pure SaaS-based all the way through to self-hosted private deployment. All right, high volume replication. I talked a little bit about some of the security features that we have, like PII detection, column blocking and hashing. A lot of times we get asked about, Kelly, how can I connect to one of my on-prem databases or cloud databases? A lot of options. Give me VPN, SSH, reverse SSH, proxy. Let me do a private networking connection. We have all of those, and very, very fast throughput as well. You need to go 50 megs per second. I need to do 200 gigabytes of changes per day. Please come to us and talk to us. To me, though, the most important thing about Fivetran is, again, the simplicity and ease of use. We can set up, and we've demonstrated over there, we set up an SAP ERP to Databricks pipeline for both initial sync and CDC in about 5 minutes. Right over there, we'll do it for you live, right? We'll take a couple of SAP tables over, material management type tables. You can see how it works. And so again, think of any data source for any Databricks data workload. Next, you gotta have a platform that can operate not only with cloud data sources, not only in the cloud, but on-prem as well. So we have introduced our hybrid deployment model. Think running your data, processing your data wherever you need to. Behind your firewall, private cloud, doesn't really matter. So we offer 3 deployment options. Pure SaaS, everything's taken care of, you don't deploy any infrastructure. If you go to the other side, we've got a pure private self-hosted deployment, everything behind your own firewall, in your own private cloud, on-prem, doesn't matter. And then we have a hybrid option that also runs everything behind your own firewall and your own VPC, but you have this really nice sort of Fivetran SaaS type user interface, but nothing runs through the Fivetran SaaS service. So if you want to talk a little bit more about hybrid, jump on over there. Again, 3 deployment options. We've got a control plane, and again, none of your data moves through the Fivetran SaaS platform. Last thing I'm going to touch on, I know I'm right at time here. So we talked about moving and centralizing all your data within Databricks, breaking down data silos, getting rid of fragmentation, right? Like Ali talked about. This variety of deployment offerings, SaaS, hybrid, and pure self-hosted. You have those 2 foundational things. Then how do we get, if you got that, to me, you're kind of ready for AI. You're ready for Gen AI. This is a quote from Ali. I always remember the quote. Was anybody at Data and AI last year? Ali said, your data with your AI, that's what's going to differentiate you. That quote's too long for me. That's a cool quote. Ali was on our podcast recently. But to me, your data, your AI, that's what's going to differentiate you. And by the way, when you're talking Gen AI, don't think only unstructured data and PDFs. If you want to come talk to me about how we're making your databases and applications in your structured data sets really influential in informing your LLMs in the Databricks context, We're doing some pretty cool stuff, and I'd love to hear your ideas as well. So think structured, semi-structured, and unstructured informing LLMs and building out Gen AI applications from. It's a whole nother talk probably. So if you want to talk data movement, you want to talk getting out of this fragmentation mode and breaking down silos, you want multiple deployment options, security and privacy, and you want to talk a little Gen AI, we're catty corner over there. We're doing live demos. I really appreciate everybody coming to the talk today. And I'll hang around for a few minutes if you have any questions. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.